You never heard of anybody that grew a company at 67,000% a year, including the Facebooks of this world. That's why they said if I had been in the internet scum business, I would have been the first trillionaire on the planet. But you want to know, how long does it take to get the board together? How much do I have to give them? Am I going to lose control? Quantum leaps require you to take the offensive. You can't achieve exponential gains in your success from a defensive posture. You can't remain in a passive stance and make a quantum leap. Remember I talked about there's a geometric difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. Virtually everybody that's ever come to this seminar has played most of their life not to lose, and everybody on YouTube is playing not to lose. They're not playing to win. Now, you've seen in athletic endeavors, American football, one team at halftime break is leading 20-3. And they come out after halftime and they sit on their lead. They lose momentum. And they lose in overtime 21-20. And that's what happens. We decide to sit on our assets, pun intended, and covet our assets instead of growing them. And when you stop doing, now, everybody in this room that has ever been in business and everybody on YouTube that has ever been in business can understand what I'm about to say. When you start a business, whether it's selling lemonade when you were a kid, newspaper route, starting your own little nursery company, whatever, the first dollar of revenue, when you go from $0 to $1, is geometric growth. When you go from $1 to $10 in revenue, when you go from $10 to $1,000 in revenue, that's geometric growth. Then what happens? You sit back and you start worrying about and coveting your assets, and you start worrying more about protecting what you have instead of growing what you have. The only difference between these guys and most of these influencers and myself as we continue to grow the business as if when we started. I tried to grow, I did grow, just like I did my first $50,000 in revenue when I had my $200 million in revenue or my $500 million in revenue. With the same attitude, the same work ethic. And when you give stocks and stock options, etc., to the employees, then they will continue to help you grow your business, fulfill your dream, just as you did in the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, most of the kids, myself included, had one employee, yourself. You didn't have anybody else. So don't tell me you don't know about geometric growth. Because anybody that started a business, the first $10,000 in revenue you had is geometric growth. Because you're starting from zero. A quantum leap is a move you're prepared to make, you just haven't done it yet. And most of you, other than the QLA experience, you haven't heard about it. Nobody talks about it. It is commonly held that there is such a thing as a creative spark, writes Hofstadter in Scientific American. And I would bet there's not 5 people in YouTube that read Scientific American, other than me. If you read Scientific American, cunts, email me. Because you've got to have more than a 50 IQ to read Scientific American. American, that when a brilliant mind comes up with a new idea or work of art, there has been a quantum leap from the ordinary mortals. People such as Mozart are held to be somehow divinely inspired to have magical insights. But I contend that the creative spark is not the exclusive property of a few rare individuals, but rather the part of everyday mental activity of everyone, even the most ordinary people. And that's why we have done $50 billion in equity with regular people. Because I haven't had $50 billion from fucking Mozarts. I've had $50 billion with fucking retards. And you show me another man's system that can get retards to be billionaires, and I'll blow my fucking brains off on fucking national television. pan the audience so they just see the retards that are here. There's no fucking Mozarts in this group. We got, what do you call those engineers again? We got nothing but sons and daughters of sanitation engineers. That means that the janitors. We got the janitors' kids here. Okay. I don't want to get started on this because it's a long deal. Any questions about Josh or anything? Okay. Who's 5? Okay, you have a question.
Yeah, about a role play.
Okay.
Well, how to get the line of credit with the banks.
Okay, good question. All of you, if you're in business and you don't have a line of credit or an overdraft, as they're called in Europe, something's not right. The rule of thumb is your overdraft, your line of credit should be 10% of your revenue. If you do $1 million in revenue, you should have 100,000 overdraft. Overdraft is a credit facility that you set up with a bank, normally guaranteed by your business revenue, and yourself, meaning you're going to have to sign for it. But it's money that stands ready, not being used, in a separate account at the bank, the financial institution, that you can draw down on. If sales are off, you want to spend money on capital expenditures, CapEx, unexpected CapEx, capital expenditure. All of a sudden, you're doing so much business. Let's say you're manufacturing and clothing. You need to buy a new machine to do this stitching or whatever. And you go to the bank, and if you're in business, you'll be hard pressed to get an overdraft, but you've got no business, because the overdraft is guaranteed by the revenues of the business and by you personally. So, but for those of you that have businesses and that you have, a few $100,000 in revenue, or a few $1 million in revenue, you should easily be able to get an overdraft or a line of credit for at least 10%. So if you do $1 million, you can get 100,000. If you do 500,000, you should be able to get 50,000. And if the bank tells you no, next you go to another bank. There's no reason for you not to have an overdraft. I mean, credit cards have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25,000. That's the same or similar to an overdraft. The difference is, on a credit card, if you read the document, you're paying between 18 and 24% interest annualized. On an overdraft, you might be paying 1 or 2 or 3% over prime, over LIBOR, whatever the business rate. So that would mean you're paying 8% maybe, 7, 8, 9%, not 18 to 24% that you would pay on a credit card. Credit card rates are usurious, meaning, they ought to go to jail. And by the way, you can reduce your credit card, YouTube as well, you can reduce the rates you pay on credit cards. Back in the day, I used to call credit card people every 12 to 24 months, and I'd say, I want an extended amount. I want it to go from 20 to 30 or 20 to $50,000, and I want a reduced rate. And they say, no, I'm afraid we can't do that. I say, okay, I'll cancel the credit card. Then you go through 2 or 3 people, and then finally you get to a manager. And you say the same thing. I want to go from 25 to 50,000 on the credit card, or 5 to 10,000, whatever it is, and I want the rate to be reduced. And they'll say no, and I'll say, well, fine. Just like I told the other 4 people, cancel the credit card. They will not cancel the credit card. They will give you, okay, you now got 10, we'll give you 15. Or you now got 20, we'll give you 30. And the rate, okay, now you're paying 24, we'll cut it to 20. Or you're now paying 18, we'll cut it to 13. All rates are negotiable, including your mortgages. For those of you that have mortgages. Now, I told my dad 35, 40 years ago, he would no more call the bank and ask to reduce his mortgage payment than he'd shoot himself in the foot. He wouldn't do that. And I already told you what my dad used to do, but he'd probably sooner go rob the bank with a gun than he would ask to have his mortgage rate cut. But mortgage rates can be cut. All mortgage rates. because they would rather banking, financial institutions, there are service businesses now, kids. In the 21st century, people are hungry for business and they don't want to lose business. They know, especially now because of Facebook and social media, they know how much it costs to get a new customer. And if they lose a customer that's got $25,000 in the bank and has credit cards of $20,000, it probably costs them $5,000 to get that customer. So it's easy for them to drop the rates and extend your credit. Because the good news is they're hoping for, God will extend the credit, then the fuckers will spend more money. So even though it's a reduced rate from 24 to 20% you're paying on your credit card, it's going to be on a larger amount and they're going to wind up winning. But certainly that's not what your parents taught you. A lot of parents say, no, don't have any debts or debt. Debt-free. My parents fell into that category. They were from the debt-free generation. And there's a lot of people that, they feel uncomfortable having debt. But the average person in America, as we said a few slides ago, has 9 credit cards, the average family. 9 credit cards. And it's not a joke. Sally doesn't allow me to carry any credit cards. I carry 20 pounds in my pocket. I feel like, they used to pin to Einstein behind his thing. They used to, with a piece of tape, put a nickel or a dime and a little note, I'm Albert Einstein, and this is my phone number, And so when he used to get lost when he was at Princeton, well, I'm one step above that or below that, however you want to think of it. But Sally doesn't pin it to me, I actually have a little loop. See that loop? There's a reason I have that loop. $50 billion man, though. But my wife doesn't let me carry more than 20 pounds. That's about $30. Yeah. So, that's exactly what some of the people will say. And I walk 2 feet behind her, but she doesn't make me wear a leash anymore. You know how you see those kids that have little leashes on?
Yes.
Well, she doesn't. She says that when I turned 70, she said I didn't have to wear the leash anymore. Yeah. Okay, did I answer your question about overdrafts? Credit cards, or excuse me, lines of credit. I mean, you can practice when you go text your credit card people. Can you text credit card people? Do they have text? Or do you have to email them? Well, anyway, call me. Yeah, call them and tell them that you want increased line on your credit card. And you ask that first, and then you drop the other shoe, reduced rate. You don't tell them both at the same time. And they'll be very inclined to increase your line. And then you drop the other shoe, and I want a reduced rate. And there's nothing wrong with it, nothing immoral with it, about it whatsoever. Because they're thinking, well, the good news is the asshole's going to spend the money. So we're going to get paid back one way or another. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll see my 5, 6, 7. We have our evening meal today in the castle. Although, as I told Sally last night, you guys look much more comfortable in the pavilion. I mean, that's your comfort zone, Okay, YouTube. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you.